Hello, and in today's video we are doing Premier League predictions for Matchweek number 2 of the 2022-23 season. We're going to see how we got on last week as well as how the comments got on in Matchweek 1 before predicting another 10 games this game week. And don't forget that the Championship will be kicking off again this weekend with Watford taking on Burnley at the Friday Night Football, and I'll be doing a match review of that as I did with the Sheffield United game with a matchday vlog at Vicarage Road. So watch out for that on Friday night. And I will be doing more Championship predictions ahead of the midweek round of matches coming very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that when Birmingham will be the trip for Watford on Tuesday night. But in this video, we are predicting the Premier League Match Week 2. Let's look back at how I got on last week. I scored myself 24 points, which was pretty tidy indeed. Very happy with that. We said Crystal Palace 0, Arsenal 3. It was, of course, 2-0 to the Gunners, with goals from Gabriel Martinelli and an own goal from Mark Gurhey. So that was a good result for us because we got the correct result. 3 points, lovely jubbly. We also said Fulham 0, Liverpool 3, which was a bit of a surprise. Fulham were superb. They got a 2-2 draw, so no points for me there. With 2 goals from Alexander Mitrovic, and also that was including a penalty as well as a good header. But Liverpool hit back and got the equalisers coming from Darwin Núñez on his debut, and also Mohamed Salah. He loves scoring in Match Week 1. But no points for me there. I also said Bournemouth 1, Aston Villa 0. So I got this result right. Bournemouth with a shock win over Villa, but I had it coming, I think, because I had a feeling Villa, they always start season slow. They did so against Watford last season, and Bournemouth, are a team that might struggle this season, but good start for them, and good points for me in the predictions. I got that result right, so it's another 3 points. But it was, of course, 2 goals from Bournemouth from Kiefer Moore and Jefferson Lerma. Leeds United 1, Wolves 1 is what I predicted. It was, of course, 2-1 to Leeds, so no points for me there, but a good win for Leeds with goals from Rodrigo and an own goal from Ryan Aït-Nouri, with the goal from Wolves being scored by the Portuguese Daniel Podence. And then Newcastle against Nottingham Forest, I went with a 1-0 to the Magpies. It was, of course, 2-0, so the correct result there, another 3 points. Great goal from Fabian Schär. He seems to always do that, Schär. Scores bangers, and it was almost identical to the one he scored against Burnley a couple seasons back. And then he's got one Newcastle, and it's another opening day game week 1 goal for Callum Wilson, and what a finish. Nice ball into him from Joel Linton, and then outside of the foot chip. Such a hard technique, but he made it look easy. So yeah, 3 points for me, I'll take that. I also said Spurs 3, Southampton 0. It was, of course, 4-1 to Spurs. So correct goal difference there. That's 5 points to me. I mean, what a win for Tottenham. They were superb. Really ripped Southampton to shreds. And Kulusevski was absolutely outstanding and completely destroyed Moussa Djenepo. So great win for Spurs. Kulusevski on the score sheet and getting an assist with that wonderful cross for Ryan Sessegnon at the back post. And also goals for Dyer and an own goal, and an absolute shocker of an own goal from Mohamed Salisu. He won't want to see that one again. But Ward-Prowse, at least, is Southampton's talisman, as always, with a great finish. Moving on, we've got Everton against Chelsea. I went for a 2-0 to the Blues. It was 1-0 to Chelsea in the end. They were pretty lacklustre, but they got enough to get the win. Everton, without a striker, are struggling at the minute, but it was a goal from Jorginho from the penalty spot, won by Chilwell after a foul from Abdoulaye Doucouré. So yeah, we'll take that. Correct result, 3 points. Moving on, Leicester City 2, Brentford 0. That's a good prediction, I thought, and it looked to be going perfect about the 55th minute, and then out of nowhere, Brentford get a goal back, and then they get an equaliser, and it's a great, hard-fought win. Feels like a win, a draw for Brentford, and it, probably they didn't see that coming, but it was a good point in the end. Obviously, Leicester went ahead with goals from Timothy Castagna and a wonder strike from Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. I mean, he does often score great goals, and then Brentford came back with a Ivan Toney goal and a nice strike from Josh Da Silva off the bench. So no points for me there in the predictions, bit of a shame. Manchester United 1, Brighton 0 is how I predicted it, because in pre-season, Man United had done some good stuff, but just shows pre-season is often not all that meets the eye, and there is much more deeper under the surface. Manchester United were an absolute embarrassment on Sunday, and Brighton fully deserved the victory. So fair play. Pascal Gross loves scoring against the Red Devils. So that was no points for me there. Obviously, both goals from Pascal Gross and an own goal from Alexis McAllister. So United really quite sloppy. And then their Manchester rivals across the city, Manchester City, what a team, what a performance, and what a debut for the new boy, Erling Braut Haaland. Absolutely superb. He looks like he's ready for goals, and he looks like he's ready to tear up the Premier League with the first one, a confident penalty after being fouled by the substitute goalkeeper, Alphonse Areola, and then a fantastic finish, a pass from Kevin De Bruyne, slipped in behind, and there is Erling Haaland, cool as you like, to slot home his second Premier League goal in just his first game. So he started the Premier League on fire. Man City have as well in their hope to retain their title for a third successive season. Only Manchester United and I think one other team have done that before. So they're really breaking the records. But West Ham, they'll feel a bit aggrieved because they just weren't at the races really. But it is Manchester City, so you take it with a pinch of salt. But we did predict 2-0 in that game to Man City, so we got that bang on the money, 7 points, thank you very much. And that means we finish on 24. But Ballum, as you can see, predicted some interesting scorelines. He said we're 2-1 Arsenal. He got himself 3 points there. Very nice. Liverpool, obviously, that was an incorrect prediction. Villa as well, and Wolves as well. Chelsea as well. He was fancying quite a lot of 0-0s and 1-1s, but I'm afraid there weren't that many this week. Only one game that actually ended in a draw, I'm pretty sure, and that was the Leicester game. So really, really interesting. But also no 0-0s across the weekend, so that was a good thing to see. There's usually one that creeps in. But plenty of entertainment for the new Premier League season. And then, of course, a correct result in the Newcastle game and the Spurs and Leicester game. But obviously, 10-0 to Man City was a bit over-optimistic for the champions, as good as they are. But very good week nonetheless. Not quite as much as my 24, though. 17 points for Ballum this week. And then we also had DK Jones commenting. He was some great predictions. And also, if you haven't checked out the video, I did some other predictions with FPL Central. So go check out his channel, give him a subscribe. He's got great content on FPL, but also Premier League predictions. And I predicted some games, and I got some correct scores in there, and actually beat him in Matchweek 1 by a point. So very happy with that. I predicted Newcastle game correctly in that version of the predictions. So loving that. But also, yeah, DK predicted 3-1 Arsenal, got the correct goal difference there, so he's going to be happy with that. No, nothing in the Liverpool, Villa or Wolves games, but look at that. Newcastle Forest, just like I did on FPL Central's channel, bang on the money with that scoreline. He also got a correct Everton result. Sorry, it's not Everton, Tottenham, and correct result for the Man City game, but other than that, no points. So, still, very strong week, and it's 18 points for DK, so strong week. But what can we do in game week number 2? Because this time around, it's going to be the likes of Manchester City hosting Bournemouth and Manchester United travelling to the Brentford Community Stadium in game week 2. So let's kick it off then, shall we? We've got Aston Villa versus Everton first up this game week. 12:30 kickoff on BT Sport. These two teams are going to be struggling because I think this season they look a little bit weak, especially Everton without a striker right now. Rondon is just not going to get the goals, I don't think. So Calvert-Lewin injury is a bit of a blow. And they still need another striker to sign, but they haven't really been linked with many players. So I do fear for Everton this season. Aston Villa were very sloppy against Bournemouth, but I think at home, back at the home crowd, I mean, it's going to be the first time Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard are up against each other as managers. We always talked about in England how they couldn't play together well. Well, can they manage against each other? That is the question. It will be an interesting battle, but I think Villa will just about come out on top. So I'm predicting Aston Villa 1, Everton 0 in a nervy encounter. And the only goal of the game for Aston Villa, I think, will be scored by none other than Leon Bailey. Now we move on to Arsenal versus Leicester. And this is the kind of match I could see being a tight one. Because, yes, Arsenal were superb last week against Crystal Palace. But I think Palace were a bit of a soft touch. Leicester, on the other hand, I think could really go and do something at the Emirates. They're not going to be, lying down easily. And therefore, I think Leicester will score, but I think Arsenal will win. 2-1 to the Gunners is my prediction. with Vardy getting on the score sheet. He loves playing Arsenal. And then the goal scorers for Arsenal is Gabriel Jesus, and the second for Arsenal, Gabriel Martinelli. Brighton against Newcastle is next, and I think this is ultimately a really fascinating game. I wonder how it will pan out, because Newcastle last week were superb, but equally I thought Brighton were amazing at Manchester United, despite the fact United were actually awful. That's no taking away from the performance from Brighton. They're so well organised, and they score goals, and they play attractive football. So at home, I might just edge towards Brighton here. And I know Newcastle were good last week, but they were up against a rather stage fright, worried Nottingham Forest team. So I think this will be competitive, but I think Brighton will take home the victory. 2-0 to the Seagulls. And the goal scorers, I think there'll be an own goal here from Kieran Trippier, and a second Brighton goal from, oh yes, you know it, Danny Welbeck, who was superb at Old Trafford last weekend. So let's move on to City against Bournemouth. This is a good game, obviously, for the neutral, because you would imagine there'd be goals here. Bournemouth, obviously, last week were very good in their fairness against Aston Villa, but they're going to face much tougher tests than that, and this is one of them. City at home, they want Erling Haaland to get the goals. They're going to build their attack around him, and I hate to say it, but Bournemouth could be a big punching bag for that. So I think City will win big. I think they're going to win 5-0 and really put the goals past this Cherries team, who I think will struggle at points this season, but I have predicted them in 13th. So I don't think they're going to be as much of a lightweight as everyone says. Later on in the season, they'll get better, but at the start, City looks so hungry for that title. So 5-0 to City, 2 from Erling Haaland. Also going to say that there's going to be 1 from Kevin De Bruyne, and then the remaining goals scored by Joao Cancelo and Kyle Walker. Now, Southampton taking on Leeds next, and this is a fascinating game because last week Southampton were really poor defensively all over the shop, and that was coinciding with Moussa Djenepo playing at fullback, not his natural position, and he was completely destroyed by the impressive Dejan Kulusevski. So I think Southampton will actually struggle up against a Leeds team who last week looked impressive against Wolves. I expected Wolves to get even a point or a win against them, but Leeds were really, really good, and they earned that victory with Brendan Aronson really looking impressive from his signing of, from RB Salzburg. So I think Leeds get the victory here, despite the fact you possibly think Southampton are stronger. But I'm just going to edge towards Leeds, and I'm just going to say they're going to win this by 2-0. The goal scorers for Leeds, Brendan Aronson and Patrick Bamford. Back with a bang. Now we look back to Wolves against Fulham. Now, Fulham was superb against Liverpool. That's definitely the kind of conclusion we take from that game. They were really impressive and exceeded a lot of people's expectations. And I thought Andreas Pereira looked absolutely brilliant on set pieces, on corners, and looked a real threat. But of course, Alexander Mitrovic back in the goals, proving the doubters wrong with 2 on the day. And I think Wolves were quite sloppy against Leeds. So I think Fulham can take home a point from this game and make it tougher for Wolves than they would expect. Wolves 1, Fulham 1, with Fulham getting their goal from not Mitrovic this time, but instead a defender, Tim Ream, and then Wolves get their goal through Pedro Neto. And then we have Brentford taking on Manchester United on Sky Sports. Should be a tough game for the Red Devils because they were very lacklustre last week, whereas Brentford are a team who know what they're doing, they're organised, and Ivan Toney is a talisman in their attack. So I think he'll score, but I think Manchester United have to bounce back, and therefore they will get a point, which I think at this point they would take. Brentford 1, Manchester United 1, with Brentford scoring through Ivan Toney and Manchester United getting the goal through Marcus Rashford. We move on next to the Sunday games, Nottingham Forest against West Ham. This should be a great game for the neutral because it's at the City Ground, their first Premier League home game since 1997. It's going to be an emotional one for those Forest fans because they were beaten in game week 1 against Newcastle quite comfortably, but ultimately this Forest team will be exciting this season. Emmanuel Dennis has been rumoured to go there for £22 million, and it looks like that will get pushed over the line. I'm sad to see him go, but, at the end of the day, he's not a championship player, and it was bound to happen. I just didn't think it would be Nottingham Forest, but I guess it's a club full of history, and maybe Ismail Assar was heading to Leeds, but Who knows if that will now come off or not. But I don't think he'll play in time for this game. West Ham, on the other hand, have got a few new signings, like your likes of Skamaka and Maxwell Cornet, who might feature in this game. Certainly, I think Jared Bowen, who's actually got quite a good record against Forest when he was playing for Hull, will probably be on the score sheet. But I think Forest can actually get something from this game with that kind of 12th man idea of the home support. So I'll go for a draw. Forest 1, West Ham 1, with Bowen on the score sheet, and the goal scorer for Nottingham Forest, it's got to be, hasn't it, against his former team, Jesse Lingard. Now we've got Chelsea against Spurs. The London derby should be a really fascinating game to watch, because last week Chelsea were very underwhelming and Spurs were very, very impressive. So you'd imagine on paper this is a Spurs win comfortably, but Chelsea are at home. It's their first home game of the season. And look, they're going to have players coming back. They've sold Timo Werner back to RB Leipzig, and they've got some new signings in. You know, Koulibaly, how will he get on and how will he bed in? But I think ultimately Chelsea will struggle. So I'm going to say it's going to be a score draw, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a good win for Tottenham. So I'll say 2-2, an exciting game. Chelsea to score first, though, and that will be through the forward, or the current forward. It could be seen as a midfielder, Kai Havertz. Then Spurs hit back with a goal coming from none other than Dejan Kulusevski, who looked fantastic last week. Then Spurs score again this time, and I think Tottenham will get their next goal through a little bit of a fullback. And you wonder, who is that fullback? Well, he was superb last week, Ryan Sessegnon. And then Chelsea get their second and get the equaliser to draw the game. And this goal comes from another defender. This time it's not Kalidou Koulibaly, if I can get the words out. Instead, it's going to be, yes, you might be surprised, Thiago Silva, who scored in this game last season. And then we talk about Liverpool Palace on the Monday Night Football, and it's live. My first Monday Night Football of the season. Should be an interesting one. Palace last season were very good. Against Arsenal, they're a bit underwhelming, but Patrick Vieira knows he can do this against bigger teams. They beat City away from home. They picked up some good points across the season, but I think Liverpool are going to win this. They're going to want to bounce back from that draw to Fulham. Darwin Nunez is in form, and he is really catching the eye of a lot of the people. So let's see if he can start. Let's see if he can score. But I think for Liverpool, they're going to win 3-0 in this game with Salah, Robertson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold on the score sheet. That's my predictions for match week number 2 of the 2022-23 season. As I said, get your score predictions down at the comment section below. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock, which will be the Fantasy Premier League deadline for game week 2, my team selection video will be out. So I'll be kind of live streaming that / recording it tomorrow, just in time for you to watch it. So if it comes out a bit later than 11, I do apologise in advance. But you can catch that over on my other channel, FPL Yellow Army. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.